We will call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. on 12/21. If we could please pledge of allegiance. Councilmember Crosby, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Please stand, put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we do roll call, Council Member Lau is not here tonight. Her father has COVID. He's in the hospital, and she's attending to her family. And our prayers and hearts and prayers go out to her. And just to let everybody know, this COVID is real. I don't think any of us have not been touched by it. So, again, hearts and prayers to Councilmember Lau and her father for a speedy recovery. With that, roll call, Mr. Russi?
Yes. Councilmember Davis?
Present.
Councilmember Crosby?
Present.
Councilmember Lau is absent. Mayor Pro Tem Carter?
Present.
Mayor Hepburn?
Present.
And I noticed that we lost the city attorney. JR, is he trying to reestablish connection? There he is. Look at that.
We've got him back. I was going to send my son up to go get him.
Yeah.
Are we good?
We're good.
Okay. Tonight, for presentations is recognition of Community Service Director Bill Aguirre on his retirement and 37 years of absolute amazing service to the city of Laverne. Mr. Aguirre, from open streets, ciclavia to open space preservation, Bill has spanned a career of more than 37 years serving the city of Laverne. Bill has given back to the community he lives in through the Youth and Family Action Committee, LVTV, Pomona Valley Transportation Authority, Youth Sports Committee, Senior Advisory Committee, City School District Ad Hoc Committee, VFW Post 12034, Heritage Foundation, Laverne Land Conservancy, and Tri-City Mental Health. Bill has also been a part of many beloved community programs such as Concerts in the Park, Movies in the Park, Teen Summit, Winter Wonderland, Halloween Parade, Senior Lunches, all of the sports programs, and the 4th of July festivities. Bill is leaving a strong legacy of valuable assets in helping to foster significant projects such as the Community Center, Sports Park, Glenn Davis Stadium upgrades, aquatic centers, the Veterans Memorial, and Bill's contributions and dedication are admirable beyond his many years with the city. Thank you for all you have done to solidify Laverne as a desirable and successful community. Also, Bill has also been part of Rotary for over 35 years, Mr. Aguirre. And I have been fortunate enough the last 3 or 4 years I've joined Rotary, and Bill's just amazing. His absence will be felt, and it's just it'll be a vacuum. But we really appreciate his service and all the years of what he's done, and our parks, all of our recreation facilities, and the staff he has in place just show what a great leader he's been. So thank you, Bill. And I've also asked Bill to give him career highlights and have a little chat. I think he wants to have a talk here. So for Bill, before he gets his wonderful award, Mr. Aguirre.
Thank you, Tim. I just wanted to take some time and thank a few organizations and people. First of all, I'd like to thank all the past and present city council members and mayors. You've truly supported me and our department, and I truly appreciate that. I'd like to call out the 2 city managers that I've worked under, both Martin Lomelli and Bob Russi. Thank you for all your help and support over these years. I'd like to thank all the department heads. It's been a pleasure working with all of you, and I truly appreciate everything you've done for me and my department. I'd also like to talk about all the employees at City Hall. I have friendships with all of them, and I truly appreciate those friendships and will carry them for the rest of my life. But most of all, the Community Services Department. I've worked with these people for 37 years, and they've become a family to me. They've been with me for all the highs and the lows of my life and the department's life. And I truly appreciate all of them. I also appreciate the community and all the friends I have out into the community and all the projects that we've done in the past. I truly think that we've made Laverne a better place to live through all these projects. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my family, my wife Carla, my daughter Haley, and my son Jake. I would not be here today if it wasn't for you, and I truly love all of you. So thank you very much, and back to you, Tim.
Thank you, Bill. And here we have everybody for Billy Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very
We'll
much.
do the
Yes.
proper COVID. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your years of service.
You're very welcome.
You will be sorely missed.
Thank you.
Plus, we have to find somebody we can laugh with.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Oh. My eyeball's back on. There we go. Okay. Now we move to, is there any other announcements, upcoming community events, Bob?
We have not received anything last minute, JR?
Not for announcements, sir.
Okay, we will move to the consent calendar. We are going to pull item 6G, 6H, 6I, Resolution 2087, and 6I4, Resolution 2089. Is that correct, Mr. Russi?
That is correct.
I will jump in here. We just received a request to pull item 6B, Register of Audited Demands as well, with the request to be called.
Okay, then we will pull item 6B. We'll go back to, nothing else, JR, that needs to be pulled?
Not that we've received, sir.
And we can go ahead, I ask for a motion to approve the items that were not pulled. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion. Robin Carter.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Rick Crosby.
Councilmember Crosby, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We will go back to the items that were pulled. We have the first up, Mr. Salinas has 3 items that were pulled, so we want to get Mr. Salinas on the phone. JR?
Yes, please hold on one second. Mr. Salinas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Salinas, go ahead. You are live with the council.
Good evening, Mr. Salinas. I'm going to let you go on the 3 items. You understand you're going to speak on all 3. Is that correct?
Yes.
Communication consultant, then the teen center, and then reaffirming local emergency. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, sir. You may start. Thank you.
All right. First on item G, I just have 2 questions that came from a resident. Isn't this the job of a city manager? Why is a 2-year consulting contract needed? And number 2, with all the resistance to paying for a forensic audit because it costs too much and the fussy about getting the phase 2 study from the county on the fire department option because it will cost $24,000, but you guys have no problem spending $45,000 on a consultant, tell city manager how to do his job. And secondly, on the teen center, maybe we should wait until we get more input from the community and look at the other options we have location-wide. And lastly, for the local emergency, please end it. It's not necessary anymore. The vaccine has already come out. We want everything to go back to normal for Pete's sake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas. Do you want to do these all in one? Once we do decide if we're going to approve these, just do them all at once? Mr.
Well,
Pratt?
we'll probably, once we get all the comments under each, then we can finish
Good.
we can finish it off. So
Okay.
I don't think there was anybody else who pulled on resolution
2089.
2089.
Yeah, it was 2089. There's nobody that was pulling that, so that's the only one. The other ones have a few people.
So you can take that item right now and complete it if you'd like.
Okay, let's do that. On item 2089, reaffirming a local emergency, Do we have a motion to approve?
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve, and the reason is that while the vaccine's in place, funds are still being allocated by the state and federal levels, and in order to make sure that we're in the queue or participating in the release of funds and the acquisition of those funds, I believe the state of emergency facilitates that positioning. So I'm in support of continuing the local emergency.
And I'll
No.
second that, Robin Carter.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed, none. Motion carries. We move to, I think Kathy Newland's up next on the communications consultant contract. Is that correct, JR?
Hi, sir. Yes. So we have the next two people that we have queued up ready to go are for item G, the extension of communication consultant agreement. And sorry if we have to bounce around a little bit. We had some last minute requests.
I'll let you go ahead and tell me what you have, and that way we'll just clear it up. Okay.
Thank you for your patience and adaptability. Hold on one second. Kathy, are you there?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have Kathy Newland live with the council.
Hello, Ms. Newland. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Hi, Mayor Hepburn and Council. My comments tonight have to do with the extending the consultant at $45,000 for our city to help with communicating with the residents and such. We have asked numerous times for a forensic audit and been told that it costs too much and voted down. We had to write letters to ask for the Phase 2 county fire department study, and we heard complaints that it would cost $24,000. And the way I feel is this general fund is our tax dollars, yet we are paying $45,000 for a consultant to tell the city how to do their job. How to communicate with the residents, that's what our city manager and our city attorney are for. I say no to any further consulting, and we do need the forensic audit, and that's where I feel the money should be spent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Newland.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
JR, do we have anybody else to speak on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have one more that we've received for item G. This is Pam Berry. Pam, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Merry Christmas and good evening, Ms. Berry.
Hi. Good evening. I am calling kind of off the cuff. Just had a few questions, wanting to understand. It seems like we always have a lot of consultants, and it would kind of be nice to know a little bit more about what the plan is as far as social media. We already have the city manager newsletter. What will be the content that will be used for this social media? Will they be getting input from departments, from the city manager? Will there also be a voice for some of the elected officials? Because we don't hear a whole lot as far as, there's not a little corner on the website for any of our council members or mayor. So just wanted to find out a little bit more about that content and also why 2 years? But just like a little bit more input on that. And that's my, I guess, question.
Mr. Russi, would you like to?
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think there was one more
Is there one more?
question that was
Sorry.
asked regarding the proposals. So yes, if council would like, I can give some context to some of this. So the consultant actually that is being engaged, their firm actually provides communication services is probably a better way of describing it. They will not be consulting the city necessarily on how to communicate, but assisting us in pushing out the message that we have. A lot of agencies either use a outside firm to do something like this or have an in-house public information officer. This was something that was requested by council to evaluate. Going back to the budget process, we did employ a temporary stopgap of this same firm for a period of time while we did a long-term RFP to find a firm to assist us. That RFP process was completed, and this firm came out in the same pricing as the other two. We've received 3 bids. So that was the impetus for bringing this forward, was council wanted us to do a little bit more in pushing messaging out. Before this, it had kind of been fragmented between the departments, and we wanted something a little bit more unified, and they have been very successful at providing that. Some of the metrics are included in the report since they've been engaged of things that they have been doing, and they will continue to do. They will do social media posts on a weekly basis. They will be doing 3 to 4 press releases a month. They will also be doing an overall audit of our communication strategy to see if there's some things that we can do to improve. As far as the 2-year term, it's certainly either party can exercise within 30 days if notice is given, but we have elected when we put out the RFP to engage whatever firm for 2 years because we felt it was important to have whoever was selected on for a period of time to better understand our community and our needs. So that is generally the services that are provided. We did not, as far as an elected corner, they provide messaging that assists the electeds, but they do not provide at this point, we can certainly expand their scope to include some type of an elected message, but that wasn't included in the initial scope of services. There was one other question that was posed that wasn't necessarily here, that was about the other 2 RFPs. Those proposals received, we have them in our office if they're interested in reviewing it, but they were not included in the packet because they weren't necessary.
Council, any questions or comments? Councilmember Crosby.
Thank you. I just have a comment. I was one of the council members that was actually pushing for this. We've had departments, and this really brings all the departments together under one voice, and really want the communication from our city, because there was a lot of miscommunication happening, and want to make sure that we have one voice coming from the city, and really appreciate what's happening. We have a lot of great things happening in Laverne, and we need to push that out so our residents see that too. Just for example was last Saturday, the Winter Wonderland. Great things happening for our residents. So really appreciate going forward with this and looking to really push out the wonderful things happening.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis.
Yes, I concur with what Councilmember Crosby was saying, because it was he and Councilmember Lau that had brought up the idea of having a public information officer, and it was such a good idea that I think they moved all of us to say yes, let's move forward with this, and right now this outsourcing opportunity with this firm looks like an attractive opportunity, and should it grow beyond this current scope into something more, then eventually we may decide to have our own in-house employee doing this information. But I certainly support making the transparency that we enjoy more robust by pushing the messaging out to the various media and social media streams. So I'm in support of this.
Thank you. Councilmember Carter.
Yes, and I really like Pam Berry's suggestion, is that there's not really one platform that the council gets to use that everybody can see. We have Facebook, but if they're not friends of yours, they don't get on and see. But it would be nice to maybe every so often highlight a different council member, the mayor, with a message of some of the items that we're working on throughout the month. So maybe we can incorporate that, Bob, with the communications officer.
They're always willing to provide more services, so I will certainly
Sure.
talk to them about that.
Well, and I just a real quick comment. Thank you all. Originally, back when, I think it was Zach Gibson that brought it up and said that we need some type of information officer for our city, and kind of step up to the times. And then Councilmember Lau and Councilmember Crosby also. And I commend all of them, because myself personally, you have to have social media. It's where it's at. You have to have communication, but you have to have a combined message that sends out to the whole city, just like Councilmember Crosby said about Winter Wonderland. Let everybody know what's going on, what's happening in our city, and feedback and communication feedback to us. So, yeah. So anyway, so do we have anybody else to speak on that one, JR?
No, sir.
Do we want to go ahead and vote on that one now? Okay, let's go ahead and for item 6G. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to put a motion out to approve item 6G.
Councilmember Crosby, we have a second.
Second.
Councilmember Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. We continue on, JR.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item that we asked, or that we have somebody wishing to speak on, is item 6B, Register of Audited Demands. I believe we have Mr. Rick Bowen on the phone. Sir, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Bowen, and Merry Christmas.
Council and Mr. Mayor, Merry Christmas to you. And I see Mr. Crosby holding up his hand. I won't look. My question on the audited demand is fairly simple. I was reviewing it this evening, and on the week of ending December 9th, there are upwards of 50 checks issued to individuals for $90. So could that be explained?
I can let you know that right now. That is youth basketball refunds. There were many refunds, multiple children. So it was youth basketball because of the season not happening. Was that the only question, Mr. Bowen? Oh,
I think he's gone. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that answers it. Okay. Next, JR.
Well, can we?
We have to approve it.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Register of audited demands.
That's the only person that was calling on that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Then go ahead. Motion to approve. Is that Mr. Davis?
Yes.
And I'll
Second.
second that.
Councilmember Carter, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We move on. JR?
Actually, Mr. Mayor, the next item in order was H. You had asked to pull that out of a request.
Oh, yes. The sidewalk improvement on D Street.
Yeah.
6H, that would, Mr. Bowen had pulled that. And the question was, is he coming on again, JR?
He wasn't.
Okay, then basically the question was, item 6H, hasn't this work been completed? If so, who has the authority to spend $88,000 of city money without council prior approval? Is what the question was.
So this was a project that we had taken to bid, and the budget we had was about $200,000. We got some favorable pricing, as I shared with council in the initial quote. So we were able to take advantage of extending the project further and basically completing the entire stretch in front of the high school. It was within our purview. We're bringing it back to council at the nearest time. I shared with council that we were going to take advantage of this pricing and that I was going to put it on this agenda for their approval. And that's what we're doing at this time.
And we were called.
The work has been completed, but in order to get the necessary pricing, we had to make sure that the project continued along. And so we had to approve it before I could get back to council.
Yeah, and it was
back to a meeting. You were able to reach out to all of us and talk to us.
yes.
Just let you know that I was going to do it because we got the favorable pricing, but I had to, and then I would be putting it on your agenda for concurrence.
Right.
No, and I appreciated that because we're saving tens of thousands of dollars on something they'd have to retool for. So I personally was elated, and it finishes a project that's been going on ever since my kids were at high school, and I think way beyond that. So, and by the way, it's looking absolutely amazing down there. It's just looking so nice after so many years. Any other questions or from council or comments? We'll take a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Councilmember Carter,
I'll second it.
second Councilmember Crosby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None. Motion carries. Okay. We move on. JR.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next item that I have callers for is resolution number 20-87, approving the application under the statewide Parks Development and Community Revitalization Grant Program for the Teen Center. The first caller that I hope is on the line is Hans Eholm. Hans, can you hear us okay? Sorry, this is actually Peter Schaefer. Peter, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you're live with the council. Go ahead.
Merry Christmas, sir. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas. It's just as he said, my name is Peter Schaefer, and I'm a long-term property owner, and I'm residing in College Lane adjacent to Los Angeles Park. So, Mayor Hepburn and City Council members, again, Merry Christmas. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the ongoing discussion regarding the location of a new teen center in Laverne. So, I believe it's an exciting time, but I also believe a site location can be chosen to benefit all members of the community without a disproportionate loss of quality of life that is affecting residents who live in the immediate vicinity. Location of a teen center at Los Forest Park would necessitate a new parking lot, as you know, and an access road in addition to the large building. This would have a negative effect on neighbors who live adjacent to the park, some mere feet away. Residents of Villa Laverne will be impacted by increased traffic, noise, and light pollution. This would also necessitate the removal of a large portion of the Memorial Redwood Grove. These giants provide shade, enjoyment, and serenity for all who visit. Even if replaced with other trees in the park, the grove would be lost in our lifetime. So over the last 60 days that I've known about this project, I've talked with many residents in Villa Laverne and from other areas in Laverne who drive here to visit our park. We actually in Villa Laverne are a community of over 300 homes. Each of our 75 buildings at current market rates figures at $1.2 million per footprint. In these conversations, I submitted a petition with 150 signatures to you and the council earlier today, all with a resounding no to this project being put forward in the north section of Los Forest Park. However, many who signed this petition also sent an email sharing their opposition. I hope you got those as well. But there's also been some collaborative suggestions, and there are many more, but here's one. And refreshing the existing community center, and these have some positive outcomes, I think. Your city website says that this current facility is 14,000 square feet. So if you feel that 14,000 square feet isn't enough space to share, then adding a second story would not only provide the opportunity to enhance and update the appearance, but it should provide more than enough of the needed square footage. There's plenty of parking at the high school, which is another plus. So you wouldn't have to create any new parking areas. A parking lot in front of the community center would be great for parents to pick up or drop off by your shuttle buses from some of the other schools in the area. And of course, there is a city bus stop from Foothill Transit right out front. Another plus is there are no homes immediately adjacent to the community center. And it is next to the library. So you wouldn't need to put in a small library inside a teen center, as some have suggested. And the Redwood Grove would be preserved. Some of the city council have compared the proposed location to others nearby cities, yet their locations are not quite comparable. Like the Lower Teen Center, for example, is located immediately adjacent to the 210 freeway and a golf course. It's over 3 miles from the high school and over 3 miles from the middle school, so it's not near any of the schools. The Claremont Teen Center is not near homes. It is surrounded by 86-acre uninhabited botanical garden, a high school, an event center, and endless acres of athletic fields to the west. There are a handful of homes on the north side, but they are a good distance away. So let me close by saying that I request you not listen to me, but to the community of Laverne. Save our trees and our park for future generations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Peter.
And Mr. Mayor, I believe we have Hans Eholm. Hans, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep, you are live, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Engholm, happy holidays, Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays to you, sir, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'll do my best to keep it brief. First off, I just wanted to congratulate Bill on his retirement and thank him for his years of service to the city of Laverne. It's much appreciated. Regarding the teen center, I'm a nearby resident. I live right next to Los Flores Park, and as proposed, I'm currently opposed to the project. I think the trade-off between the green space for the enhanced services for teens in the community, although needed, I think is too great. I think the way it's proposed right now, it presents us with a win-lose decision between these services and the green space. And I think we should look for win-win solutions, really try to achieve both. I think that an alternative to the proposal would be to renovate and reconfigure the existing community center. I think it's a great location for enhanced services. And lastly, I just wanted to emphasize that, how attractive the open green space is to the community of Laverne. It drew me to the area, and it's a huge source of enjoyment for me. And I would just respectfully urge the City Council to consider other locations for the proposal. Thank you for your time tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Yolm.
And Mr. Mayor, we have some more callers, but we'll need to get them queued up. So hold on one moment.
Sure. We need Christmas music in the background. Robin, we talked about it.
Mr. Mayor, I have Carissa Weber on the line. Carissa, go ahead. You're live with the council.
Merry Christmas, Miss Weber. Happy holidays.
So I walk to the Las Flores Park almost every day. I don't just walk to the park. I specifically walk to the mini redwood forest in the northern part of the park, which is where the proposed teen center would be. I live in an apartment close to Foothill Boulevard, and I walk all the way down to this park because it's a peaceful, tranquil oasis. It's a place to decompress and get away from it all. I've come to rely on my visits to this little piece of nature during these unprecedented times of stress. As a lower-income renter, I don't always have the option to go spend a day hiking in the hills or travel to go see redwood forest. Many other people don't even have access to a car to travel to the various hike trails. I personally have come to rely on my walks to the redwood trees at the Las Flores Park as an essential mental and emotional health experience. Especially during the COVID pandemic, a quiet walk among the redwood trees has provided much needed calmness, peace, and serenity. There are numerous studies showing the healing effects of spending time in nature. Is access to nature now only for people with cars or who can afford to travel to destinations outside the city? What happens to the mental health of all of the residents who have come to rely on this piece of forest as their space to decompress during these unprecedented, uncertain, and stressful times? During the pandemic, we've lost our businesses, our income, and now we're going to lose this beautiful, historic, and healing patch of forest. My daily walks to these trees have been one of the only bright spots keeping me going through these unprecedented times. It's where I take a breath and feel grateful that at least I can walk to this quiet and beautiful place. If it's helped me, I'm sure it's helped countless other people. I see many people enjoying the trees, young and old. People doing yoga, meditating, walking their dogs, flying little toy airplanes, families having picnics and taking a break. There's birds, butterflies, squirrels visible among the trees, providing an inspiring and life-giving experience of nature. For some, this quiet walk in the peaceful redwood trees at the park is all the mental health care we have access to at this time. It's become one of the most powerful healing experiences. Bulldozing and removing this section of the park would completely destroy this oasis and take away all of the emotional healing it provides for the community. I'm sure there are other places you can bulldoze to create a teen center. Please don't take this peaceful sanctuary away from us. In my email to the city clerk, I took photos among the trees so you can see the beauty that it would be destroying. And that was the statement I had prepared.
Thank you very much. We did appreciate your photos. Robin, that cup looked like a bucket.
It's my Christmas mug.
That is, no, that's not a mug. That's a bucket. That's a bucket too, Mr. Davis.
The big
There you go.
plastic glass, yes.
And my apologies for this delay. I accidentally hung up on Miss Best.
It's okay. You'll hear about it tomorrow. Don't worry about it.
Wool will be coming in your stocking.
Yes, right. And some nails.
That's okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have Sherry Best on the line.
Good evening. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, Miss Best.
Merry Christmas to you. My name is Sherry Best.
That cup looked like a bucket.
It's my Christmas
Make,
mug.
make,
That's not a mug. That's
Sherry, make sure you turn off your sound on your computer, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that right now.
There you go.
Okay, I'm ready to go. You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Best, and I live at 3949 Bradford Street in Laverne. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on the ongoing discussion regarding the location of a new teen center to serve Laverne residents. Las Flores Park is the favored location for the proposed teen center, which would be placed directly where the Evelyn Hollinger Memorial Grove is now planted. This grove dates from 1976, when it was created to celebrate the nation's bicentennial, and was renamed in Evelyn's honor in 2002. As president of the Laverne Historical Society, I feel qualified to comment on the historical value of this grove and to provide a proposal that simultaneously values both the new teen center and the Redwood Grove. The Laverne Historical Society urges that members of the City Council and appropriate city staff take the following steps. 1. Retain as many redwood trees as possible at the site of the new teen center. 2. Replant trees at the ratio noted in Title 18 of Laverne's Municipal Code to create a new grove in a park that would benefit from the addition of trees in a grove-like configuration. Ruby Mills Park comes to mind. 3. Dedicate the newly planted grove as a heritage grove, as per Laverne's Municipal Code. 4. Salvage wood from felled redwood trees and use it for the following purposes. Incorporation of wood into aspects of the teen center, perhaps a door resembling our library and Hillcrest doors, and or creative uses of the teen center building. Creation of redwood benches dedicated to Laverne residents whose lives reflect service to the community. For example, Scooby Mills, Evelyn Hollinger, Reuben Guidardo, and Virgil Welch come to mind, as these people were associated with the original grove, Mills Park, woodworking skills, and teaching. Dissemination of redwood benches throughout the city, either to parks or places such as City Hall, the Laverne Community Center, and Hillcrest. Laverne has recognized and honored Reuben Guidardo and Virgil Welch for their woodworking and teaching skills. Several Laverne residents received woodworking instruction from these masters and would be able to lend their skills to the creation of objects made of recycled redwood. The woodworking shop at Hillcrest could be utilized for this project. Members of the Laverne Historical Society could volunteer their time and energy by working with city staff to guide this project. We recognize that artifacts of our past, once lost, are forever lost. Adaptive reuse of felled redwood trees would honor the grove in ways that continue to tell Laverne's history. I offer a final statement and accommodate the fewer than 20 spaces currently planned for the teen center? Is building another and new road for fewer than 20 spaces really necessary when an access road and parking lot already exists? It is now completely possible for people to walk from the existing parking lot to the Grove, and a larger lot would service the swim center as well as provide room for the shuttle that would bring teens to the new teen center. Please incorporate the changes proposed in this statement and vote accordingly for the new teen center. These changes should be reflected in the grant application packet. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Best.
Mr. Mayor, I have Pam Berry on the line.
Good evening, Ms. Berry again. How are you?
I'm fine. I have a couple questions and then a comment. As far as the looking into the project, I believe it includes some sort of coordination with Tri-City Mental Health in regards to teen center programming or in some way connected. And I know Councilmember Carter, are you still on the board of Tri-City? Will you be recusing yourself from voting on this in relation to the teen center? Mr. Mayor, I have Pam Berry on the line. Oops, I heard that sound off. Okay, and sorry, there we go. Right button. Okay, and so yeah, as far as recusing from the vote, does the city attorney have any opinion on that? As far as the plan for the teen center, my concern is it looks like $3 million was on the agenda. I'm really concerned that our city right now is in a crisis, our state, our country, our world. And any unnecessary projects, I think, need to be put on hold. And those funds really need to be redirected towards getting our businesses built up. We need to have make sure that our town doesn't turn into ghost town. We got a lower sales tax revenues, I'm sure, which is going to affect budget. And it just doesn't seem like it's a wise time to take on a project of this type. It's not something that must be done, and I'm not sure this is the time. But when it is time, I agree with Peter's suggestion to use the area near the community center out of respect for those who want to continue to use the park, enjoy that space, and also the residents who have voiced opposition. So that is my comment.
Thank you very much. Chair, any other calls?
Yes, sir. We have at least one more. Mr. Mayor, I have Donna Dye on the line. Donna, go ahead.
Hi. Donna, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
I'm going to be very brief. I sent a statement earlier today. I wasn't sure if I could make it because I work at a couple hospitals and it's a little crazy. Anyway, I just wanted to express my concern over them taking down those trees. Fully support a teen center without any question, but thought maybe we could take more time to be creative and look at ways that we could do that and save those trees. I've, been here my whole life and grown up and old with some of these trees. and I think they're very important. We've worked very hard. I made a note in my comments that we've worked very hard over the last 10 years to save the trees in Laverne. We've worked hard on these deodars down here on 3rd Street, and we've always supported the city, I think, with a multitude of ballot votes, propositions, measures, asking for, financial assistance from the residents here. And so just was looking maybe for some more review, and like I say, maybe some creative work around how we could do this. And I think the Historical Society, Ms. Bess, has mentioned some things that can be done. So that was all. I just felt like, since I was raised in a grove of trees, as I noted, they're near and dear to my heart and important, and I wanted to express my concern and share that with you. And I appreciate your service and all that each of you do. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for serving in the medical field. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that is all the callers we have for this item.
Okay. We will close that section and we'll come back to council. Council, comment?
Before we do,
Oh.
I just want to, because there was one question asked, I want to make sure that we address it, and that's the need for Councilmember Carter to recuse herself. That is not necessary, and I'd just like the city attorney to chime in.
No, there is no conflict of interest in my opinion.
Okay. Council, comments?
I'll go first.
Councilman Carter.
This is Robin Carter, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the history here and how much time has gone into this. It hasn't been just, a short period. We have been talking about doing this for a long time. Study session, it started with what were the goals of the city. And then we move forward on this very, very slowly, looking into a lot of different areas. Location's been difficult. Laverne is built out quite a bit. Trying to find the right location, we have visited and thought about different locations and did research. And this was the one location that we felt was best, because where we are choosing to have it, you have right there the pool, you have the tennis courts, you have soccer players, you have softball players. It's kind of a sports park right there for the kids. And yet the park is so big and the beauty of everything. I do want to point out the redwood seems to be the big topic of concern, which I walked over there. I met with Peter. Bill and I met with Peter. We walked back over the park and went back to the redwoods area. I don't think people realize that we have lost almost 3/4 of the redwoods back there because they have died. And so they have been taken out. We plan with this development, if it goes through, that we are going to keep as many as we can back in that area. And then on top of that, such as Sherry Best brought up, we are, looking at too, having other areas that we will plant trees and look at what we can do. I agree, trees are very valuable in this community, and I would like to see that continue. So that's one topic. The community center, this teen center was brought about because we have to realize that there's all kinds of kids out there that are looking for something to do. They need tutoring. They need a place to do homework. A lot don't have computer equipment at home. And so we thought with this teen center, we could bring in tutors to help these kids. And we visited three different sites for other teen centers to find what would be best for Laverne. Some are extravagant. That's not what we wanted here in Laverne. Others had different areas. Claremont and then also Glendora had a lot of the topics that we wanted to address for these children. And when it comes to Tri-City, that's just one avenue that we thought could be beneficial, is if they had an office in there. Nothing is set. This is all still communication, but we want to reach out to those kids that would need it. And so that's where all this is coming from. And we're just looking at what would be best in the location. And I still feel that is the only location in Laverne that we could put this in. And so those are my comments right now, and I would like to come back if I find a need to.
Thank you, Councilmember Carter. Councilmember Crosby.
Yeah, I had the privilege walking with Mr. Shaver and Mr. Egelholm, Hans and Peter at that site. Working 25 years in the middle school, we really do need a teen center for our kids. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and I get that people need open space and need that as well. The one thing I want to answer, this is a resolution to go for a grant to pay for that, so that this is not being spent out of our general fund. This is moving for a grant. This is and if the grant gets funded, then we would move forward with this. But there's a high possibility that this grant's not going to be funded right now as well. But we want to try to get this money for our community, and this is a step that we have to go through to make sure that that we can apply for this grant. The one only aspect on this is if and correct me, Mr. Rusty, if I'm wrong, if we get approved by this grant, we cannot move the site. The grant is for what we approve for this site as well. So that's why we are trying to move forward with this today, is to get the money and not use our general fund. And we are not on the calendar for to move for our own general fund money, but looking for a grant. I did visit. There were 7 sites that were looked at. There was the community center that was spoken about tonight. The Methodist Church across from the high school was looked at it, but it's not owned by the city and had issues. At the middle school, there's issues. This is really for teens. So really looking to get middle school, and the most kids that visit teen centers are 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th graders usually at through the different cities. And when you have something at the middle school, then high school kids won't go that way. If you have something around the high school, which around our area, the local cities around us, majority of them are around the high school. And so that this spot goes with that as well. We looked at the Edwards Theater, the empty lot next to it. Again, having to spend more money to try to get that property and not being by the high school or the middle school. And Las Flores Park had actually 2 locations that were looked at. So looking at that, I like Ms. Best's suggestions of maybe replanting and moving and using the trees throughout if they have to take some, but taking down as little as possible. I do see I do feel for the residents there and see that there's going to be more people there. But I believe that the need for our youth is really great. So, but I want to make sure that people understand that where the money is coming from, and that this is for looking for a grant for to build this.
Thank you, Councilmember Crosby. Councilmember Muir.
And Councilmember Crosby was correct. It is a site-specific grant. When we applied, we had to identify the location, and it was a location that had been previously approved by council.
Yeah, and thank you for clarifying on that, Bob. I think, though, even though there's a site plan there, some of the edges, for instance, those that Ms. Best brought up, reconfiguration of the parking lot, those types of things might be manageable. But generally speaking, tonight is about money, and it's about requesting that a grant be sent to the state to get money from the state rather than from the city's coffers. The need for a teen center is real. I think that having additional parking there would actually help the neighborhood with regard to street parking when there are other athletic events going on. It would help to offset that a little bit, not a whole lot, because we're talking Saturdays when AYSO is up and running. We're talking about thousands of kids showing up over an 8-hour time span. I think the teen center would add a few hundred, each and every day during the daytime. So I don't know that the intrusion of the kids is going to be all that significant. And I believe that the building, once it's in place and with the addition or the addition of trees or foresting to benefit the park, I think it's large enough to accommodate both. But tonight is about trying to request money, and I'm in support of that.
Anybody else? Councilmember Carter, you have a go back or anything? Or are you?
No, I'm glad that they touched on the other topics I was thinking.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. This goes back, I think, Councilmember Carter, Mr. City Manager Russi, I think it was 2016 or 15. It was when I first got on council, I think. And we were in discussion on that. It was Councilmember Carter, Mayor Kendrick, and also Billy Gary that were real proponents, and the city also. And it pushed through. My big concern back then was funding for the plans, because we weren't sure where it was going to go, and the decision was made to go ahead with that. Well, I did approve that. I was one of the people that did approve and push it forward to where we're at right now. My issue now, though, is the fact that I will have to say that after reading 150 signatures and 50 emails with people that aren't happy because of the fact that it is going to affect their lives in that community, and it is a busy community. I've had many things there. My kids played water polo, soccer. We've had softball over there. So I do feel for them because their quiet neighborhoods being approached again. We do need a teen center. There's no question about it. Unfortunately, this grant is specific to that location. And if we don't approve this, then obviously that fails. But that's only for $3 million. The grant is a possibility. It's not, I would say what, Mr. Russi, 50-50 chance, I guess, at any time for a grant. You never know. It just depends on the need and what the monies are and the communities that need it. And I will be honest that most grants do go to lower socioeconomic areas that have a need for certain things, but we do have a possibility of doing that. But being that said, I think the time right now, as Ms. Berry had pointed out, that right now I think our money needs to be kept in the city to help which we've been helping our local businesses, but I think the timing's probably not right. So I'm going to have to I'm not going to support this myself personally for the fact that it's the wrong time. Our residents have spoken. They don't want it in their backyard. I respect that tremendously. That was a major canvas of mine during my election campaign for mayor, and it's a beautiful community, beautiful homes, and the serenity is very nice, and I think that we need to look elsewhere. So on that, if there are any other comments or questions from council?
Well, I think we can have a vigorous debate over this, because I think we can come up with some of the discussion points that you raised. One is, I think that is a very active community in that neighborhood around the park. There are things that are going on daily, if not weekly, at that park. And I didn't hear concerns necessarily about the children. I heard mostly concerns about additional parking and an additional access road. And these kids, I think, as Councilmember Crosby said, these are mostly 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th graders who are teens before they get their driver's license. So they're not really going to be adding to the traffic there. And I do concur with the council member as well when he was saying, if it's positioned near a high school, that's going to draw the middle schoolers to there. But if it's at the middle school, the high schoolers, they're done with middle school. They're not going to go that direction. When I used to live in the Bay Area, people would always say, everyone will go into San Francisco, but San Franciscans will not leave to go to the East Bay. And that was true of that. And I think that the council members' comments about high schoolers not going back to their middle school is also true. So I do want to say that, the residents in the area have expressed interest in not having it in their backyard. Although I think their backyard with Las Flores Park is substantial. And I think once it's all said and done, it isn't going to be the intrusion that they're fearful of. As far as timing, I think if we can get other people's money to help facilitate jobs in Laverne building this, I think that's a good thing for the current concern. investing in our community, investing in getting things done in our community is a positive thing rather than letting things go idle and waiting for a later day. I think that only postpones our return to a vibrant community.
After reading through all of the emails, there's a numbers of points. First of all, it's the trees. That's a very sensitive spot. It is a tranquil area. There's a wide berth there that people can walk around. I think another concern was the fact that there might be some elements coming in there. You've got high school students and what high school students do. I think the more noise, the parking, more congestion, plus the people that are facing that park, which is quite a few of the residents there, just to obstruct their view. When they've been looking at grass, and looking at that open area, even though there is softball, there's water polo, there was complaints that I think for some of them that the water polo and music and things like that was very loud and intruding on their time and their place and their home. And the fact that it's basically going to put an 8,000 square foot building with 4,000 square foot of parking right in front of their homes. So I would just disagree that it's probably not a place for a teen center, although it's a perfect location in the fact that it will fit there fine, but we have to think about these residents. And I will say there's 300 residents plus there, if I'm not mistaken, and 150 sign a petition that they would not like it there, but they would like to discuss that they do feel the need for a teen center, but they would like it somewhere else where it's not affecting their lives. I'm sure that if you had a teen center built across the street from you in your quiet neighborhood, it would probably be, a tough spot. But the residents pretty much spoke, and like I say, it's been going on for a long time. I did originally agree to that, but I cannot agree to that with the residents that it's going to affect their lives in their little community, and the quiet community at that, even though with what's going on. And it's, there's always things going on there. A lot of people like that. They like the park. They like the benches. They like the shelter structures, but it just adds to their peaceful neighborhood. So.
And one thing, if I may.
Go ahead.
What I like about the plan is that it keeps those shelter structures, places still there to have the barbecue, have the event. But the comment where the teens that go there might bring some harm or crime. These are people that go to teen centers are people that want to get away from that stuff and want to make sure those are with great families to have them go to those teen centers. These aren't kids that are running around through the streets trying to cause that stuff. And I want to tell you, teens are great kids. Working 25 years with middle school and high school, we have exceptional kids. And being 10 years as a teacher at Ramona, I want to tell you how great our kids are here in Laverne. I do understand that putting a building at a park and taking away some grass and open space, don't take that lightly at all. Again, this isn't moving forward, right? This is going for a grant. And if we don't receive this grant, then that will not be happening. But we don't want to spend our own money, like you said, Mayor. We want to make sure and try to get money from outside sources so that we can use that money for our residents.
And I'd like to add to that, when Rick talks about the youth, middle school students are the main focus of what we're going to have come use this facility. Our committee met. We went around to the high schools and the middle school to talk to the kids to see what is it you would like to have. Would you utilize it? We did a lot of research with that, and there won't be a lot of traffic because those kids don't drive. What we're planning on doing is using Prop C funds to have them. We'll pick them up at Ramona Middle School, bring them over right after school to the teen center. So you don't have all these vehicles. Each one of those kids will be signing in, signing out when it's time to go, when the parents come to pick them up. That's why we talked about having like a roundabout where they come up, pick up their kids, sign them out, and then they leave. but this is going to be staffed. It's not just a free-for-all. It's going to be staffed, manned by city employees, and also we're going to have hopefully tutors in there. We're Tri-City possibly have an office in there, and so that these are the needs of the kids. And so I don't feel traffic's going to be the issue.
Okay. Well, as Councilmember Crosby said, I've raised 3 children, plus I don't know how many others I raised, quite a few. I know teenagers very well, and the community doesn't want it there. I'm sorry, guys, they just don't want it there. And I understand that the grant, but even with $3 million on the grant, you still need another $3 million. And depending on the construction costs, as time goes, it goes up too. So it pains me with the to say that we approved, $80,000 for the plans, but we might be able to use the plans somewhere else. I don't know. I know it's very specific. It has to be a postage size stamp that fits those plans, but I still can't support it. My residents have spoken, and I just respectfully, I've given you the reasons. So unless there's any other discussion, we should go to a vote.
Well, I just want to say I think this discussion was helpful for our community to hear. So I don't think anything was lost by having a more thorough discussion.
No, I appreciate that. Talk about it, But at the end of the day, the residents have spoken, and I'm going to support that.
Robin, would you like to take the honor to make the motion?
I absolutely would. I would like to move forward with moving along with the grant proposal.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Davis. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? No? Motion carries 3-1. Thank you all. We move on to item 7.
Yes, Mr. Mayor,
Doesn't
you
matter.
had, Jay would be handling the item, but as you had started off the meeting with the impending retirement of Bill Aguirre, we are looking at reassessing the department and how to appropriately move forward. And so we have put together a proposal, and it requires some adjustments of classification. So with that, JR.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, as Bob said, in preparation for Bill Aguirre's upcoming retirement, we've taken a close look at the department and the needs that are in the community to enact the requested classification changes and compensation levels and position operations. The City Council's approval is necessary. Staff is recommending the addition of a community services manager, a community services specialist, and community services supervisor, as well as updating the full-time recreation coordinator position to a community services coordinator. The manager position is a new classification reporting to the city manager and will have general oversight of community services. The salary will be in line with other managers in the organization, and the recruitment for this position should begin after the new year. Similarly, the specialist position will be a new classification being established to support the department, with the salary being established at a level fostering succession planning for growth into the community services coordinator position. The city currently has a classification for recreation coordinator. However, the job classification is being updated to better match the department's needs, as well as evolve the full-time position to include the community services designation, separating them from part-time work. The salary will remain the same as the recreation coordinator position at the current level. The city also currently has a classification for community services supervisor, but has not authorized the position to be filled. An internal recruitment has been initiated in anticipation of council's approval. Lastly, the recommendation is to remove the director, as well as one full-time recreation coordinator position from the current position authorization. The net effect will not impact the general fund and will remain in line with this year's budget authorization. Staff recommends the City Council adopt resolution number 20-91, approving class specifications and salaries for community services manager, community services coordinator, and community services specialist, as well as authorizing associated position changes. I'm available to answer any questions that council might have.
we have any comments from the public? JR?
Not on this item, sir.
Okay. Council, comments for staff?
I think it's an elegant solution to trade away a bishop and a pawn for a knight and a rook.
I was trying to think of an eloquent way to put that, and that was very well put, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russi. I think that that was a very good move on your part. It's adjustments, and especially now in our certain time we're in, you did a great job on that. I think, and it took care of different classifications very well.
We're trying to set the department up for succession going forward, giving us a structure that didn't really exist previously. So we're really happy with what's there, and the people that are still around see the importance of this makeup of the department as well.
It's very clean. Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for staff? On that, I ask for a motion. Motion to approve.
I would like to support Resolution 2091 approving class specifications and salaries for Community Services Manager, Community Services Coordinator, and Community Services Specialist, as well as authorizing requested position changes.
That is a mouthful. Thank you, Councilman
Yes,
Davis. Second, we have Councilman
I'll second.
Crosby. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Item B, Mr. Russi.
Actually, well, this was an item that was originally brought to you. Actually, the concept was brought to you on several occasions, but was discussed with council previously in a closed session, and is now being brought forward for final acknowledgement and execution of the disposition agreement. I'll let Maya go through the specifics of it, because the project itself has been one that she's been working on and has been working with Mr. Kress's colleague, Peter Wallen, on putting together the actual disposition agreement. So, Maya?
Thank you, Ms. McCurley.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. The proposed disposition and development agreement between the city and Brandywine Acquisitions Group allows for the sale of residentially zoned city-owned parcels to Brandywine Homes in exchange for the development of for-sale affordable housing units on that same property. So the city-owned property that would be utilized for the development of the affordable housing units is located on Walnut Street. Currently, the city owns 3 vacant and contiguous parcels located at 1874, 1876, and 1878 Walnut Street, which is located within the Walnut Street specific plan area. Collectively, the 3 parcels are approximately 0.702 acres. These parcels were purchased in 2008 and 2009 by the Verne Redevelopment Agency, using funds from the city's low and moderate income housing fund. Money from that fund can only be utilized for purposes related to the development of affordable housing. And so when the Verne Redevelopment Agency purchased those parcels, it was with the intent that they would be developed for affordable housing units. With the dissolution of the Verne Redevelopment Agency in 2012, the city became the successor agency to the RDA, and with that, they took on ownership of those Walnut Street parcels as housing assets. Over the years, the city has entertained various proposals from different developers to move forward with the development of affordable housing units. However, nothing ever came to fruition. As part of the city's efforts to see the successful development of affordable housing there, at the direction of City Council, the city expressed to potential developers a willingness to eventually convey those parcels at little to no cost in exchange for the development of affordable housing. So this possibility was communicated to Brandywine Homes in May 2020 when they contacted staff regarding a potential development opportunity at a different site located at 3717 Fruit Street, which is a privately owned site that's approximately 2.258 acres and is located within the Foothill Boulevard specific plan area. So in discussing that potential development at the Fruit Street site, staff went through the different development standards that the city has. One of those development standards is a requirement to provide a proportional amount of affordable housing units with each new housing subdivision within the city. Now, there are different ways to comply with this affordable housing requirement, mainly 3 options. The first option would be to incorporate those affordable housing units into the actual market rate site. So something similar to the landing on First and G, where you have affordable housing units mixed in with the market rate units. The second option would be to pay an affordable housing in lieu fee to compensate for the fact that the developer is not providing affordable housing units. The third option would be to develop the affordable housing units off-site. So that was what interested Brandywine in moving forward with the development project at the Fruit Street location. They expressed an interest in developing the affordable housing units off-site, potentially at the city's city-owned properties that are located on Walnut Street. So in July 2020, Brandywine Homes submitted entitlement applications to the city to move forward with the development of 50 three-story townhomes for sale at market rate at 3717 Fruit Street, which again is privately owned property, and also moving forward with the development of 8 for sale detached single-family residential homes at the Walnut Street properties. And the development of those affordable units at the Walnut Street properties, again, would be in fulfillment of the affordable housing requirement that they are required to meet as part of the development of the 3717 Fruit Street project. So this item is about the disposition and development agreement. A disposition and development agreement is a contract between a developer and the city for the sale of city-owned land to the developer. So the proposed disposition and development agreement sets forth a commitment between the city and Brandywine Homes for the conveyance of those city-owned properties on Walnut Street for the sum of $1 in exchange for Brandywine developing that property with 8 for sale affordable housing units. The affordable housing units are required to be deed restricted for 45 years, which means that they have to be limited in their sales price at less than fair market value to be affordable to moderate income households. Just for context, based on today's income limits in LA County, a moderate income household would be roughly in the range of approximately $64,000 to $92,000, and that varies based on the family size. And so part of the disposition agreement would require that the homes for sale would be affordable to moderate income households, but also that Brandywine would have to market these homes to local Laverne residents first, as the intent of these affordable housing units is to serve the existing Laverne community. So the proposed disposition and development agreement aids both Brandywine Homes and the city. It aids Brandywine in that they're able to accommodate their affordable housing requirement should they move forward with the private property on 3717 Fruit Street, which would be for market rate housing. And it also helps the city because it fills our long-term goal of developing the Walnut Street site with affordable housing. And the affordable housing component, it's very critical and it's an important priority for the city. It aligns with the goals and priorities of our adopted housing element. And it also helps the city meet its obligations to fulfill its fair share of the overall regional housing need. So while the proposed residential development of 3717 Fruit Street was the impetus for this disposition and development agreement, the disposition and development agreement is strictly related to the city-owned Walnut Street properties being conveyed to Brandywine Homes for the development of affordable housing units. I know we did have some questions from the public, so I wanted to make that part clear that that's all the disposition and development agreement is about. And this can occur, the conveyance of the city-owned properties to Brandywine for the development of affordable housing units. This can hypothetically occur regardless of whether or not the Fruit Street project moves forward, but there's very little incentive, financial or otherwise, for Brandywine to pursue the development of the affordable housing units on Walnut Street if they're not doing it in conjunction with the market rate units on Fruit Street. And just to reiterate, the Walnut Street properties can only be utilized for affordable housing, which is why the city is selling the property to Brandywine Homes, which is, a developer that's capable of constructing the affordable housing. Furthermore, the development of affordable housing is a particularly expensive endeavor. And so cities, including Laverne, we need to use incentives such as the sale of land for little to no cost in order to make this type of development possible, which is why we're selling it for $1. So it's important to note that the staff in the Community Development Department has not yet deemed any of the development applications complete. And the disposition and development agreement, should the City Council choose to move forward with executing it, doesn't guarantee that those approvals that staff would approve those development applications. So it still needs to go through the regular process, and that would involve going to the Development Review Committee, to the Planning Commission, and ultimately to City Council for approval. Additionally, it still needs to go through the typical CEQA process, which is the environmental review, and that needs to be done before DRC, Planning Commission, or City Council could even, review and approve these projects. So the CEQA review is expected to commence in January 2021, with a completion date in May 2021, which means that the formal review by the Development Review Committee, Planning Commission, and City Council would occur shortly thereafter. So execution of the disposition and development agreement is occurring right now in order to ensure that the project can continue to move forward as it is currently proposed. So the disposition and development agreement has been reviewed by the attorneys representing Brandywine as well as the city attorney. And furthermore, the terms of the agreement are pursuant to the City Council's direction, particularly at the September 8th, 2020 City Council study session, closed session. So staff recommends that City Council approve and adopt resolution number 20-92, authorizing execution of the disposition and development agreement. Should you have any additional questions, I'm available from staff. We also have representatives from Brandywine in the waiting room if you had any particular questions of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCurley. Council, do we have any questions for staff at this time?
Let me just add a little something, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Just to give perspective, as it relates to this project, and I know Meyer referred to that, this has been on our radar for a while. We've owned this land for quite some time, and we've taken several attempts at trying to come up with opportunities to develop it, not just in conjunction with another development, but just a project straight there. And there were a number of failed attempts, and every other opportunity required the city to participate with land, as well as a $200,000 to $300,000 contribution per unit that was being developed. So to be able to accomplish this by putting the land in and allowing for those affordable units to be built is certainly a valuable return for the city in being able to provide that affordable in this fashion. So wanted to just throw in that as a history of what we've been trying to accomplish over some time.
Yeah, and council at the time was not interested in putting money into this project of any state, and it was to have a developer come in and take it and do exactly what we're doing right now. And Councilmember Carter, you were a part of that too, and Mr. Davis, Councilmember Davis, I'm not sure if you were, but it was very clear that we didn't want to. We wanted it free and clear and wash our hands of it and be on the tax roll. So it was, yeah. Do we have any questions for Ms. McCurley?
No, I'll wait till after public comment.
Do we have public comment, JR? We'll close this and go to public comment.
Mr. Mayor, we have no request to speak on this item. I believe you were given a copy of an email that was received before.
Yes, I do. I will read that. I think that Ms. McCurley has already answered them, but we'll, Mr. Russi, you want me to go ahead and read it?
I think she has, but if...
I think she has, but I think we'll go ahead and do it and just maybe reiterate what it was. Item 7-2, who owns the property? If privately owned, why is the city involved in giving away city property to assist in a private property sale? Why can't the seller spend part of the sale proceeds to buy the city land to give away? So I think just reiterate what we said. It's go ahead, Ms. McCurley. I'll let you.
Yeah. So to kind of go through those questions, who owns the property? I think there's two properties at play here, but really the disposition and development agreement is strictly related to the Walnut Street properties, which are owned by the city. And so it's not privately owned. And the city, again, based on the funds that were utilized at the time the properties were purchased, it can only be, the land can only be used for affordable housing, which is why we are executing or hoping to execute this agreement with Brandywine, so that way we can convey the land to them in exchange for the development of the affordable housing units. And again, the impetus for this agreement was the potential development of the market rate units at 3717 Fruit Street, which is a private property. However, this agreement can, technically speaking, stand alone, regardless of whether or not the Fruit Street project is in the equation.
Very good, thank you. The initial expense was it, Mr. Russi, if I'm correct, $560,000 back when? Is that correct?
I don't remember because they were bought at different times. Maya, do you have that readily available?
Yeah, it was approximately $575,000.
Yeah. So but that'll come back on the tax rolls anyway. So, okay, I think that was it. No other public comment, JR?
None received, sir. I just refreshed my email a couple times and nothing has come in.
Okay, we'll close public comment and go back to council. Council?
Sure, I'll go
Councilmember
ahead and express my thoughts now. You know, I think that affordable housing is an important aspect that Laverne needs to keep its arms open to. I think that the landing, as Maya was talking about, Ms. McCurley was talking about, was a great development where they incorporated the affordable housing into the project itself. I also am familiar that in construction, oftentimes an in lieu payment of affordable housing is performed, which is, I guess, in my perspective, the least attractive option. And I think that this opportunity comes smack dab in the middle. I think we're getting affordable housing, which is what we want. The developers being responsible and developing affordable housing, not necessarily on the project, but elsewhere in the community. And I think the fact that we're taking this fallow land, which has had trouble finding a niche in the affordable range, and utilizing it for this project is a great one. And the fact that we're contributing land, receiving a nominal amount of $1, but not having to contribute additional funds is really a win-win. So I'm really thrilled with this opportunity to dispose of this land in this manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Davis. Other comments, Council? Councilmember Crosby.
I just think following the steps when we purchased the land and following with those footsteps, it's appropriate to do that now.
Thank you. Councilmember Carter?
No, and I agree with what Mir said. Exactly. It's a win-win for both and for the housing. So I'm very pleased with this concept.
As being one of the neighborhoods that was a big concern of mine, and since 2015 when I got on council, Walnut Street has started to improve. And I think this is going to be a wonderful area for a young family to come in at affordable housing cost and be able to occupy 8 homes with 3 pieces of property. It just continues to upgrade the neighborhood and bring people in there. There's a lot of people coming in there now that are redoing the homes and stuff, and I just, it's really nice to see. It's very nice to see. So I'm pretty excited about this. I think it's great. It's a win-win for the city. It's a win-win for young residents that want to come into our community and start a family and go to some amazing schools, and just a great community. So thank you. I think this is good for, it's a win-win for all. Thank you, Ms. McCurley. Any other questions for staff? With that, a motion, do I have a motion to approve?
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of resolution number 2092, authorizing execution of the disposition and development agreement with Brandywine Association or Acquisition Group LLC.
I'll second it.
Second, Councilmember Crosby. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. McCurley. Thank you, staff. We move to item C, short-term rentals update. Mr. Scheer, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on right now, Mr. Mayor and council members. Just to give you a quick update, or like at least a background on the history of short-term rentals and how we got to where we are today. In December of 2019, the City Council gave staff direction to enact a moratorium on short-term rentals based on some resident concerns we had on some particular units. And then in January of 2020, that moratorium was enacted by the City Council so that the city could look forward to drafting an ordinance that would establish some regulations for short-term rentals in the city of Laverne. That moratorium did have an exception where hosts could get approval from the surrounding property owners in order to continue to have the short-term rentals during the moratorium, provided their neighbors basically agreed to that. Then in August of 2020, after we were hopeful that we would be able to have a in-person study session with hosts and the community to discuss potential regulations, but due to COVID, obviously that wasn't possible. So in August, the council approved the final extension of that moratorium for one final year. So August of 2021 is when the moratorium will expire. But we held a study session virtually, basically the same way we are now, on November 16th, 2020. And we did receive quite a bit of input from residents, hosts, et cetera, that were shared with the council at that time. Staff at that November 16th meeting went through a study session presentation, which was attached as part of your report this evening. Where we outlined the major points of what the draft ordinance that we are crafting had, and that was based on other local cities ordinances that had been approved in the recently, and what we felt most were best suited for Laverne. So those main requirements were that we established an over-the-counter process. So that way it'd be a ministerial process for people to have a short-term rental, provided that they met the requirements. A short-term rental is a stay for 30 days or less, a rental in a residential property. The draft ordinance would allow for 1 booking per day per property, with a maximum of 2 people per bedroom for each of those residential units, with a maximum of 10 people. We had a requirement that the host be on site during that booking time. So it wasn't an empty house that anybody could just book and have there be a responsible party there at the premise during the stay. And then we also had established a noticing requirement, a little bit different from what we required in the moratorium exception, but basically something that originally we had proposed as we would notify the adjacent property owners that an application had been filed for a short-term rental, and that if we received 50% or more objections to that rental, then they wouldn't be automatically approved through this ministerial process, this over-the-counter process. There was some discussion at that study session about that 50% rule, and I'll talk about kind of what we've modified to try to address some of the comments that the council provided to staff at that time. And so if a host wasn't able to meet any of these requirements, they could also apply for a conditional use permit. So we basically made a second route, right? So the over-the-counter is the easy way, a simple process, provided you can meet these requirements. But if for some reason you're not able to make or meet any of these requirements, then you could apply for a conditional use permit. And that would go to the Planning Commission, a public hearing. It'd be a larger notice that we would send to that neighborhood, and the public would have an opportunity to provide their comments to the Planning Commission for that discussion and that decision. And obviously, a conditional use permit, special conditions can be applied to that project based on the specifics of the location or what the proposal was for. The Planning Commission's decision is also appealable to the City Council as well. So it's possible that if there was such a short-term rental, that the City Council might even ultimately hear that hearing if there was an appeal. Well, that November 16th meeting, the council did provide staff with feedback and comments and questions. And we kind of we've identified 6 areas that we felt that we needed to do more research or come back to you with more information. So that's why we're here before you tonight. And so I'm going to go over what those 6 topics were. First, there was a question about required for parking. Some other cities do have very specific parking requirements that we felt were going to be pretty tedious for staff to try to enforce and enact. But we think that having a general comment that basically requires that hosts provide off-street parking for their guests, that way if we do end up having a parking issue at one of the locations, we could go back and see if they're not providing that off-street parking, so that the vehicles for their guests aren't accommodated on the property. And if they aren't, then that's a reason for us to either deny or revoke a permit. So it's a general condition, but we think that it probably satisfies the concern that was raised regarding parking for these to the best of our ability. And then on the noticing, so after further discussion and staff went back and looked at it, we came up with language that would basically require that we notify at a minimum 6 surrounding residential property owners. As we mentioned at the study session, the way that the city is configured, we have different areas where we have a traditional grid pattern block where it's pretty clear who the surrounding property owners are. But we also have other neighborhoods with curved streets and awkward or irregularly shaped properties where it gets a little bit more complicated. So we thought if we at least made sure we notified the 6 closest surrounding property owners of the application, and then that if at least 3 of those owners objected. So maybe in one case we might notify 10 property owners, but in order for the objection basically to come up to not allow the over-the-counter approval, only 3 would have to object in that scenario. So minimum notification of 6, and then if at least three or more object, then they no longer on that over-the-counter path, and they have the opportunity to apply for a conditional use permit to be considered that way. So we think that kind of addressed the concern that was raised of not just having a general 50% rule, but having a minimum of 3 and a minimum of 6 notified that way. There was a question or a request that the property owner be the applicant in all cases, and so we can do that, and we've modified the language in the draft ordinance to have the property owner has to be the applicant, but they can assign a host. So if it's a family member or somebody else, a responsible party basically that would be there on site during these bookings. We made sure that we excluded children under the age of 18 from counting towards that maximum occupancy number that I talked about earlier. And then there was a question about how we can potentially identify units that might be advertising for longer than 30 days, but then allowing for early termination of those lease or those rentals, which would bypass the city's ordinance, as well as the collection of TOT or the transit occupancy tax that the short-term rentals are subject to. So we did talk to Airbnb, as they are the largest hosting platform, and they are able to work with us on these unique circumstances to identify. They didn't believe that they had the ability to automatically track those and catch those if that was happening. But right now, staff believes we only have around 12 to 20 active Airbnbs in the city, to where it's a manageable number, to where I think if we would know that if that was happening, that Airbnb committed basically to work with us, and that we could put language, and we plan on putting language in the final ordinance that would allow for that to be enforced basically either on a case-by-case basis, or if technology improves or there's other methods of us to try to track this to make sure we're not missing those ones that are trying to circumvent this ordinance. And then lastly, there was a question about the fines that we could levy against people that are out of compliance of the ordinance. We did look at it closely, and state law really restricts us on what the fines we could apply for. So our administrative citation process that we have in place is compliant with state law, but we can't double fee those, for example. There is restrictions on the city. So as it's a daily offense that can be cited, we think that if we really had somebody that was really just thumbing their nose at us, basically, we have the ability to apply these administrative citation fines on them on a daily basis, to where it would add up fairly quickly. So we think that what we have in place today is probably adequate enough for us to gain compliance in those instances. So with that, I think that addresses the concerns and the comments that were raised at that November meeting. Staff, the ordinance obviously does have to go to public hearings before our planning commission and back to the city council. We expect that to happen in the next 2 to 3 months. The ordinance is mostly drafted, but we're still waiting for some feedback from Airbnb on some of the TOT components that we have built into it. And so we're working with them now. Another wrench in it was that, as you might have known, Airbnb recently went public, and so their staff had some limited access to their own system basically during that process. So we're hopeful after that and the holidays that we'll be able to be back in touch with them to further discuss the draft ordinance, but that this would come back to you in the next 2 to 3 months in a public hearing process. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Thank you, Director Scheer. Council, before we go to public comment, do we have any comments or questions for Director Scheer?
I believe you do have one public member that wants to speak.
I was just asking council if they would, before we go to JR. JR, do we have the person on call?
Mr. Mayor, I have George Richards. Mr. Richards, you're live.
Mr. Richards, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Yes, hello.
Hello, we're live.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Merry Christmas to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is George Richards, and I spoke at the last meeting we had, and I have a few questions about we don't live on the property like I said before, but we have our daughter, and I want to see if, I know we discussed that, if that's going to be good enough to bypass the conditional use permit. And my concern is also with the neighbors. I've already gotten my 6 neighbors to sign the petition. And if we send it out again and if they don't respond, how does that work? If they just say, well, I've already signed that petition, and if they don't return it, will that affect whether I can continue doing business? And then the collecting of the TOT, I know I had asked the city to talk to Airbnb about collecting it, which they do in some cities. And that way I don't have to be taking it out of what we charge. It would already be on their bill that they pay. And that would make it easier for accounting and just to make sure that that's taken care of. So that's my concerns. Let's get the conditional use permit. I know you mentioned it was going to be $1,500, and to me that's very high cost. It's a lot of nights of renting our room, to cover that $1,500 fee if my daughter is not able to be the one to host and to be in the home. Those are my concerns, and thank you for listening, and I'll wait for your response.
Thank you, Mr. Richards.
Thank you.
Director Scheer, would you like to respond? First, do we have anybody else on? JR?
There are no other requests to speak on this item, sir.
Mr. Scheer, you commented on a number of these things. Would you like to respond?
Sure, yes. So in this gentleman's instance, he would not automatically need the conditional use permit.
Public comment?
Pardon, close public comment, sorry. We'll close public comment right now. Let's go to Director Scheer.
Thank you. So yes, so in his particular instance, he would not need a conditional use permit based on the draft language of the ordinance, as he could assign his daughter. He could be the applicant and assign his daughter as being the host who would live on the site, and that would comply with the requirements for an over-the-counter permit. So if that's the only issue that he had, he would not be required to go through the conditional use permit process. In terms of noticing, we still would update the notice with his neighbors in terms of letting them know that he's applied through this new process. But I have to imagine if those are the same neighbors that are there that have allowed him, that signed off earlier, that there wouldn't be any reason for them to sign off or to not oppose it. There's no active work that they would need to do, unlike currently under the moratorium, and the applicant's not required to do any of that work either. That's a staff level review. We send them a letter, and that would say they have 10 days to contact us if they have concerns. If we don't hear from them after that 10 days, then it passes. So it's really not that any more work on his portion to comply with the noticing requirements. So I think that the ordinance as drafted mostly addresses his concerns and would allow him to continue to operate as he has been.
What about the TOT as far as that's something that with the service, is that something that that the service could do, or he had a concern about the TOT and the collection?
Yes, the TOT will be collected by the hosting platforms. That's how it's done. So when somebody books it, they pay it directly. Okay. And then the hosting platform gives us those funds back on a quarterly basis, basically. That's how it typically works. So he doesn't have to worry about it. It's done on the hosting platform side, and the customer is the one that pays for it.
Okay. Thank you, Director Scheer. Questions, Councilmember Davis?
Yes, I guess, Eric, I just wanted to have a conversation with you about this so people don't get so concerned about the CUP. The conditional use permit fee of $1,500 is just the initial fee. an annual fee that they have to maintain. Isn't that correct?
Correct. Yeah, that's the cost of processing that CUP, the public noticing, newspaper postings, everything else. But once a conditional use permit is granted, it runs and it does not expire unless there's violations of that CUP. So it is a one-time deal.
Yes, I just want to make sure our residents aren't seeing that $1,500 as an annual fee that they want to run away from. I think that I think your over-the-counter looks fine. I'm pleased that we're going to write the ordinance to make sure that that anybody who would fall into a short-term rental would get charged the TOT, and I'm confident that Airbnb and other platforms can program their software to meet our ordinance as you concurred with Airbnb. I get the fact that they had an IPO or they're having an IPO, and that causes people to want to be conservative with their promises. I've gone through one IPO myself, and it's interesting how companies behave at that point in time because they're underneath a big magnifying glass by everybody. But I'm happy to see that. I don't think that the over-the-counter permit is too burdensome. Those requirements. I'm thrilled that the TOT is taken care of by the third-party platforms, and I think that any conversion from a long-term stay to a short-term stay is going to be caught and charged TOT, which is really the right outcome. So I'm happy with your ordinance as you've developed it. Thank you.
Council, other questions for Director Scheer? Councilmember Crosby? I have none. I just thank you. It looks like we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's, and I think, yes, sir, Mr. Russi.
If I may, and I'm sensing general concurrence here with council, with council's support, I would like to at least circle back with Councilmember Lau, assuming there are no concerns that are raised there, given the circumstances, to get her input. I think it'll be fine, but at least before, and we'll report back, we can schedule an individual meeting in that regard.
Yeah, you have concurrence from us here, and I think that's a great idea, just to, yeah, because a lot of work's been gone through this, but thank you, Mr. Scheer. Appreciate it. So you have concurrence from us to move forward, and you'll check with Councilmember Lau. Is that correct?
So we will develop then the language, take it through the hearing process, and then it'll be back before you. Eric, what would be your best guess of time frame?
Like I said, probably 2 to 3 months. We have to do the noticing for planning commission and then another notice for council. So February, March.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. Go with that. We go now to public comment. JR, we have a number of people. Councilmember Carter, you wanted to say something before this. I'm sorry.
I would like to address, I've received a couple inquiries about the trees down on Arrow Highway. So I would like to address that so everybody hears exactly what's happening, because it's a big change down there. All the trees along Arrow Highway being removed are within the railroad corridor and are within the area needed for the Foothill Gold Line project. The project needs about 100 feet of width throughout the rail alignment, and in some areas more than that. The space is needed to allow enough room to relocate the single freight tracks that is currently located in the center of the rail corridor and to install 2 new tracks for the light rail system, along with other infrastructure needs of the project, such as new dedicated right turn lanes at intersections and new drainage underground. Each tree that is being removed must be logged by size and species for that reason. So that can be replaced in kind and per the agency's tree replacement policy. The construction authority revised the plans for the project to identify a portion of the rail corridor through Laverne that can be used for revegetation once the main line construction is complete, and we will be working closely with them to select appropriate size trees to plant in that area that are safe to grow and close to the rail corridor. I think that's important for the residents to understand, because a lot are concerned with all the trees coming down, but I want them to understand they're going to be replaced, but we have to have that area 100 feet from the corridor.
Thank you, Councilmember Carter. Appreciate that. Any other comments before we move on to public comment? JR, we're ready for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have several, so I have a couple that are queued up and ready to go, and then we'll end up having a little bit of a delay getting the other ones online.
Okay.
Mr. Salinas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Mayor, I have Jackson Salinas on the line.
Good evening again, Mr. Salinas.
Hello again. I just have a question for you guys. Is there a way we could join the lawsuit to get with San Bernardino County and San Joaquin County against Governor Newsom for the stay-at-home order? Because we can't go on like this for any longer. Businesses are going to be closed forever. We got to step up on our game. And also, people like me want to go back to work for Pete's sake. We just can't live on unemployment any longer. Also, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas. You and your family also.
Thank you, Mr. Salinas. Mr. Prentice, are you there?
I'm here.
Mr. Prentice, you are live with the council. Mr. Mayor, it's Terry Prentice.
Good evening, Mr. Prentice. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays.
Merry Christmas and good evening, council members. Mr. Russi, tonight I would like to speak again to the proposed contract with LA County Fire District. If you analyze the financial implications of the proposal and extend out the cost of Laverne Fire Department versus LA County Fire District over the life of the first 10-year contract instead of only the first 5 years, as was done by both the city staff report and also the Messina report, you will come to the conclusion that the proposal is not in the best interest of the city of Laverne. The city's projected annual increases of 3.25% for each year of the contract is a reasonable projection based upon historical data. The county fire proposal specifies 5.5% annual increases for the first 5 years. In year 6, it is the average of the previous 4 years plus an additional 1%. In years 7, 8, and 9, the annual increase for each year will be calculated at the average of the previous 5 years plus an additional 1%. This puts the annual increase at year 10 at 7.6%. The county starts off at a lower annual cost of a little over $500,000 for year 1. Then in year 4, the county costs exceed the projected Laverne Fire Department cost projections slightly. At the end of the first 5 years, the savings under LA County Fire District would be a little over $750,000. But at the end of the 10-year contract, and we are looking at a 10-year contract, not a 5-year contract, the total cost of LA County Fire District exceeds the projected cost of Laverne Fire Department by over $7.5 million due to the rapid escalation caused in the last 5 years of the contract, which gets to the LA County Fire District target for annual increases. Then we need to look at the following 10 years. Assuming the same annual projected cost of year 10 of the first contract going forward with Laverne Fire Department at 3.25% annually and LA County Fire Department at 7.6% annually, then the cost of LA County Fire Department exceeds the projected cost of Laverne Fire Department by $85.5 million. So over the next 20 years, the city will be paying a little over $93 million over the projected costs for maintaining Laverne Fire Department to receive a lesser daily service level and a much less quality emergency medical response service, and having no hope of future improved services at less cost. This does not even take into consideration the additional costs that will be coming in those 20 years because the LA County Fire District has no capital replacement fund, but dedicated and restricted funding to replace aging and obsolete fire equipment that will be required to maintain service levels. Even homeowners associations are required by state law to have an audited capital replacement fund. It is financially irresponsible for LA County Fire District not to have a viable capital replacement fund. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Prentice.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we have Linda Lockhart Wilkinson on the line. Go ahead.
Merry Christmas, Ms. Wilkinson.
Lockhart Wilkinson, 32-year Laverne resident and owner of 5 historic homes in Laverne. I'd like to give a quick update on moving the house and bungalow from 2109 White Avenue to the corner of 1st and F Streets, where the oldest wood house in Laverne from 1885 is located. Principal planner Candace Bocock has been diligent in working on this project, as moving a house has not happened in our city for many decades and is somewhat of an anomaly. When the council voted on October 5th to allow time to move the White Avenue house, no one was aware of a specific code pertaining to relocating a house. The Los Angeles County Building Code mandates the City Council only after review and recommendation by the Planning Commission shall by resolution grant the move. Therefore, Planner Candace Bocock's tentative schedule for approval and issuance of permits to relocate the house and bungalow are the next Planning Commission meeting on January 13th for review, February 1st back on the City Council agenda for public hearing and approval by resolution, February 2nd, the applications for an oversized load permit and relocation permit can be processed and issued. In the meantime, contractor Michael Gaddy and house mover Eric Brandt are requesting to prepare for the move. Preparations include clearing a pathway to move the structures off of the White Avenue property onto First Street, releasing the houses from the foundation, reinforcing the roof of the house to allow the roof to be removed to clear utility lines going down First Street. I have requested permission from the trustee of the Martha H. Marsh Trust, which owns the property, to allow the preparations to begin next week. This way, the houses will be ready for relocation just as soon as the city can process the permits. Thank you for your time. I wish you safe and happy holiday season. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkinson. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Mr. Mayor, I have Rick Bowen on the line.
Good evening again, Mr. Bowen.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and Council. I have 3 comments and 1 question. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that indeed, Zach Gibson, when he ran for mayor, was the only person that suggested the city have a communication information officer, and it would be nice for council people like Mr. Davis to not take credit for that, but give it to the public that suggested it. Number 2, listening to the discussion about the short-term rentals, maybe we could apply some of the same rules about notifying your neighbors and requesting their approval to the teen center. Go to the neighbors that will be closely affected, see if they will sign off. You pass this for the short-term rentals, why not do it for the people that will be directly affected by the teen center across the street from their house? My question is about when this year's budget was passed, there was a discussion about hiring the finance manager instead of the interim. And at that time, I believe it was July, the city manager indicated he would have 2 to 3 vetted candidates before the council in approximately October. So I've never seen that, and is there ever going to be a finance director hired for the city? Seems like a pretty important position. And lastly, I'd just like to say I hope we all pray for Councilperson Lau's father for a fast and quick full recovery. Otherwise, Merry Christmas. Everybody have a great New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. You also. JR?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're bringing on what I believe is our last caller that we have for a request. Hold on. Mr. Mayor, I have Malik Tariq Mahmood on the line.
Good evening, Mr. Mahmood. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family.
Thank you. Very happy Merry Christmas to all. I would like to use this opportunity so respectfully to clarify a common misconception about Islam, that Muslims do not respect any prophet besides the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In fact, Islam teaches us to believe in all the prophets and holy scriptures sent by God in any era, in any part of the world, to any nation. So we do believe in Jesus, Moses, Krishna, and all other prophets. For us, Hindus, Jews, and Christians are believers of our own Krishna, Moses, and Jesus. This is the true essence of Islam. Let me present here a few points so the audience can understand the real and high status of Mary and Jesus in Islam. In the Holy Quran, God revealed a full chapter called Surah Maryam, or chapter of Mary. Number 2, according to the verses 19 to 22 of this chapter, Jesus was born without father, and he was a sign and mercy of God. Number 3, some people attack Mary and Jesus because they do not know his father. The Holy Quran defends this Holy Mother and her Holy Son. God says in chapter 3, verse 60, surely the case of Jesus with Allah is like the case of Adam. He created him out of dust. Then he said to him, be, and he was. God is stating that he created Jesus without father as he created Adam. So how can you speak against them? Number 4, God defends Mary and Jesus and establishes their dignity in chapter 5, verse 76 by saying, and his mother was a truthful woman. Number 5, in chapter 66 of the Holy Quran, verse 13, God presents Mary as a pious woman. He says, and the example of Mary, the daughter of Imran, who guarded her private parts. And finally, God says in chapter 3, verse 36, that the mother of Mary dedicated her before her birth to the service of God. Following the footsteps of the mother of Mary, thousands of members of Ahmadiyya Muslim community has dedicated more than 50,000 kids to serve God before their birth, to establish his name in the world for the establishment of peace. These Islamic teachings unite us with Mary, Jesus, and his followers and inspire a special love in our hearts. May God bless us to be really united in the world. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I misspoke. We have Leah Skinner that's been patiently waiting to speak as well. So
oh, of course.
One moment, hold on.
This is so interesting.
Mr. Mayor, I have Leah Skinner on the line.
Good evening, Miss Skinner, and I think you are the Queen of Chamber. Is that not correct? The Queen of the Chamber. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and your family.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. This technically should have been an announcement, but it was my error in my email communications with Lupe. I just wanted to share with you some of the programs that the Laverne Chamber has going on right now, encouraging our residents to continue to support our small businesses. On our website, we do have a page now called Laverne Open for Business, and that page is dedicated to all of our restaurants that are currently offering takeout and delivery services. We are hoping that everybody will call the restaurant directly instead of using their app delivery service, so that the restaurants don't lose that percentage. We also still have ongoing our Shop Laverne scavenger hunt, and that will be going through December 31st. You can find the scavenger hunt on our website. and 5 lucky winners will win a 1-hour flight with Global Aviators Academy, where you will be up in the air over LA for an hour, actually holding the stick, of course, with a pilot sitting shotgun. And that's generously donated by Brackett Field Airport. And finally, we are offering the Shop Laverne e-card, which is the ultimate contactless holiday gift this year. You can use it just like you would a Visa or MasterCard gift card, but this can only be used at local Laverne businesses. We have about 11 vendors that have signed up already and more coming on every day. And all of this can be found on our website, www.lavernechamber.org. And I want to wish you all happy holidays and good riddance to 2020.
Thank you, Leah. We really appreciate it. You guys do such a wonderful job. And let's support our local businesses as we always do. But thank you for what you do and all your members. Thank you.
Thank you.
JR?
Sir, that is all that we have received. I will refresh one more time. Yeah, no other requests are coming through.
We're going to close council or public comments and move to council comments. Who would like to start?
I'd like to answer the one question that was brought up regarding the finance manager.
I'm sorry, we did not answer that. I'm sorry, Mr. Russi. Go ahead before we close.
It's okay. Yes, the timing has gotten pushed off. We had to go back out to recruitment due to unforeseen circumstances. I expect that we are doing interviews this week, I believe.
Actually, on the 30th, sorry.
Thank you, even so. And then we will be down to a selection. But I think it was inaccurate in that I'm bringing selections back to council. It would be candidates that I would be considering for the final selection. But that should hopefully happen in the next month or so.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, Mr. Russi?
That's it.
We'll go ahead and close public comments, and let's move to council comments. Who would like to start? Councilmember Carter. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Councilmember Davis.
Davis, you go first.
Go ahead,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Davis.
I'm happy to go first. It's a short day after all. Here we've had a council meeting on the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. We have 2 planets that are dancing near each other in the space. And I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And I want to thank Mr. Maoud for his wonderful comments. I think we are a pluralistic society. We actually share much more with each other in our various religions. And I'm grateful to have others who want to lift that up. And just, everybody hang in there. We'll get through the COVID times, but happy holidays, peace, love, and joy to you and your families.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Councilmember Carter.
Yes. I want to thank all of you, my fellow council and mayor, for joining me on Saturday night. We had good representation from all of us, and Wendy was there also. But our staff did an amazing job finding an activity that the community could enjoy. We had Winter Wonderland, and our community services in the community center put on a wonderful event for the children, for the families to drive through. We were COVID safe, all had masks on, gloves, and they had a chance to come through with the biggest smiles on these kids' faces. And Yvonne was the director of this event, and I want to send out kudos to her and her staff for everything they did. And it was festive, the music, the blow-ups, the police department was there, the fire department was represented, and it was just, our child care also was there to have activities for them, and what a wonderful event. But I want to wish everyone a happy holidays, and be safe, enjoy your family during this time period, and I am proud to work with all of you on the council.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Carter. Councilmember Crosby.
Yes, Councilmember Carter. Really do agree. The wonderful event that we had last Saturday, seeing the kids just excited was amazing. What's happening right now with Councilman Lau's family is really wearing on me a lot, and working as the COVID liaison from my school district and hearing about families just coming in contact, and so many people that are either in close contact or that's gotten positive with COVID in just the last 3 weeks is astounding. So there's going to be a lot of tough decisions that people have to make this week about bringing families together or not. And I just want you to everyone to really think about with their heart and do is this one Christmas worth seeing everybody or every Christmas after? And so everybody's got to make their own decision, but I just want to wish everybody a safe holidays, and that we want to see everybody coming in the new year. And please keep prayers for those people that are in health issues, and hopefully everybody can make it through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Crosby. Thank you, everyone. I was remiss. Basically, the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, GFOA, back in late October, has awarded the Certificate of Achievement of Excellence in Financial Reporting to the City of Laverne for its comprehensive annual financial report, CAFA report, for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019. So kudos to our finance department. They run a tight ship. As you know, they send us 5,000 pages of financial reporting, and it's amazing what they go through, the numbers they crunch. And Mr. Davis, Councilmember Davis, you would be appreciative of that it's a tight ship, and I do appreciate that. And we appreciate what you guys do, and all the departments that give them the numbers that they can put to. But kudos to our finance department. I want to first, before I thank anyone, I want to thank my wife for allowing me to run for mayor. And without her, this wouldn't have happened, with her support. So love her dearly, and thank you, Patty. Number two, I want to thank our council members. It's a lot of hard work we go through this year. This has been a very trying and tough year for all of us. All of our family members, as Councilmember Lau knows, it's a tough time for all of us. COVID's uptick, the deaths are upticking. It's just a tough time, but we're a great community. We need to all stick together. We need to follow the rules as much as we can, be safe, and get through this to the next year. The vaccines are starting to come out, thank goodness. It's going to take some time, but we really need to focus on safety and protecting our families right now. And but again, I can't thank the council enough, all of them, and our hearts and prayers go out to Councilmember Lau for a safe and speedy recovery of her father. And I just want to say that also, my mantra is eat, shop, and pray. And let's keep our money in Laverne. Let's keep our businesses. As a city, Mr. Russi and our council and our county supervisors, we consistently work with them to open as quickly as we can, get our businesses back open. They are the lifeblood of our community. And this last shutdown was very tough for all of us, but unfortunately the state is shut down, and we have to follow those guidelines. But we support our businesses, and we will continually work with our supervisors to get our city back open again. But being that said, Merry Christmas to all, and everyone have a happy holiday and a happy new year. And Mr. Russi.
I think you're getting there. Go ahead. I just wanted to make sure the announcement.
I'm getting there, and we will be canceling our January 4th meeting, and our next scheduled meeting will be Tuesday, January 19th at 6:30 p.m. Again, Merry Christmas to all. Happy holidays. Call those people you haven't talked to in a while. Reach out to those people you haven't seen. Connect. It's the most important thing people want. They just want a conversation, a friendly voice, or drop a cake or cookies or whatever. But everyone, Merry Christmas. Thank you. Meeting's adjourned at 8:45 p.m. Bye, everyone.